It burns!
Yes, that's right. I tried something different. I made an intro for the show today, and I'll try to do one for every episode that we do, even though it took me forever. Welcome to the Horror Syndicate Discourse. Welcome back if you've been here before, which I know you have, and you love us. Tonight, if you didn't get a clue from what you just saw, we are talking about, to be completely honest, one of my favorite zombie movies, Night of the Living Dead, directed by Tom Savini, the 1990 remake, and it's the only movie Tom Savini directed. So it's going to be a fun time. It's got Tony Todd, Patricia Tallman, is it Tom Thomas? Anyway, it's got a great cast, really. A bunch of recognizable people from the horror world, and we're going to change things up from our normal show. We'll answer any questions or any comments that we can, but we're going to have everything. Everybody's got their own segment now. We've got Nathan's going to break down the anatomy of a scene. Seth's going to do something called the Evil Dies Tonight. We'll see what happens with that. I've got a couple questions to ask called the Razor's Burn, which is a deep cut from our very first show back in 2017 or 16. And then Jared has tidbits and trivia. So it's going to be a fun night. Sit back, hang out, and talk some Night of the Living Dead. It's one of the, in my opinion, one of the top 10 horror remakes of all time. But that's my opinion. I want to get your opinion, and I want to know what Jared's opinion is right away. Top 10 or no?
Top 10 zombie or all time?
All time remakes.
Yes, all time remakes? Yes. Oh, yeah, definitely within the top 10 all time remakes for sure. Yeah. It's one of the ones that actually can stand up really nicely to Romero's original with a nice twist.
I think so too. I saw this before I ever saw Romero's, so it holds a special place in my heart. I did forget one thing. There's a lot going on here, so if you're new to the channel, subscribe. Okay. Nathan Thomas Milliner is the next up. How you doing, my friend?
I'm good.
Yes, sir. You ready for your anatomy of a scene?
Yeah, I'll try.
For some reason, I wanted to do a special little intro for you, and I kept thinking of not anatomy, but autopsy. And I kept thinking about Herbert West, like doing something with Herbert West, but I didn't get to do anything yet. I'm trying to figure it out still, so we'll get there. So it's going to be a good segment. We've got a breakdown of actually a really good scene. I was wondering what scene you were going to choose.
It wasn't easy.
It was easy for you?
It wasn't easy to find one because, I mean, Savini, like I said, it's his only film. I mean, he directed some segments and anthologies.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he did some television episodes. But, I mean, there was just something in that scene I thought I could talk about. But, yeah, I look forward to more experienced filmmakers in the future.
I think there's a lot to that scene, though. When I saw the pictures, I was like, "Oh, that's a good scene," because we'll get to it, and I'll let you get into it, and hopefully I'll interject. You'll be okay if I interject for a second. I absolutely love this movie. So hate that Tom hated. Well, we'll get into that too. Great to see you too.
He had a lot of pressure making this.
Yeah, even though George was a part of it, kinda. And by the way, Seth is here. Who doesn't love his smile? Look, he's smiling right now. He's got his resting Seth face on.
Resting Seth face.
Yeah. So anyway, I hope everybody's doing well tonight. Everybody who's watching or watch, make sure you subscribe to the Horror Syndicate. We've put some production value into the show, and let's see how well I can do. I already fucked it up at the beginning because I'm new to having the videos on there. I don't know if you guys caught it. It burns. That's part of my segment. Jesus. So anyway, like I said, we're going to segment things off and do things a little bit differently than we've ever done it before. We're going to be organized. We're going to be like a real show. Well, we've been a real show. But anyway, we are not doing the 1-star reviews anymore. We've got a lot of other things to cover in kind of a short period of time. So the first thing we're talking about Night of the Living Dead, and everybody knows the story of Night of the Living Dead, but let's kind of talk about it. And Jared, why don't you take us into what the story is of this remake of Night of the Living Dead, if you don't mind?
I do not. For the most part, Tom Savini played it pretty close to, his lips. If you're an OG horror fan, you know the original movie. So he did do it very close to the original, but he always I can't say always because this was his only movie that he directed, but he decided to make some deciding factors that changed character portrayals in this one that separated itself from the original. Yeah. Obviously, Patricia Tallman playing Barbara, that was the hugest difference from the original. And the character of Ben.
Go ahead.
But that kind of, flips into the end of the movie. But a lot of it was pretty played to the cuff of the original, which is a love letter. Obviously, George Romero was an executive producer on the film. So, I mean, he was, under Savini's thumb a little bit at the same time. But, he actually made this movie different. But at the same time, it felt like the exact same movie. If that makes sense.
In some ways, I can see that for sure. The story is essentially the same story, right? Yes. As one of our followers, Isaiah said, he broke it down in the movie, 7 refugees shelter in the house in Pennsylvania countryside. Yeah, just like the original movie for the most part. You've got Cooper and his family in the basement with the 2 people who were there. You've got dead bodies inside the house. You've got and then you've got Patricia Tallman and Tony Todd, Barbara and Ben, who end up at the house together. And I love that they didn't change much to this movie. Kind of gave it a late 80s, early 90s update. And I love the opening. I love Bill Moseley's little cameo as Johnny, because he's such a ham and he pulled it off so well. They're coming to get you, Barbara. That's such a great thing to see in the movie. And I like Patricia Tallman in the film, and I think the change in Barbara really added to the story because she kind of was a catatonic mess in the original movie, which that's a question I have later on. We'll get to that. But I love the story of this movie because it's more personal than some of the other zombie movies you get out there. And George Romero does that. Even Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead are kind of the same way. Horny Barbara.
Horny?
Was she horny?
Or does she make people horny?
I don't know. She's wearing that skimpy shirt.
I was going to say she takes her pants off too.
Yes, she does. She takes her pants off. Anyway, yeah. So what do you? God damn it! My name is spelled Ray. If you're gonna say hi, use my name the correct way. I'm not Ray Skywalker. So anyway, so Nate, I know we've talked about the original Night of the Living Dead. Nate and Seth, I want to hear from you guys on what you think of the story, and we know that the original movie had a lot of political undertones or whatever. And this one, I don't think it's as necessary, and I don't think it's as prevalent. What do you guys think about that?
Sorry, I was getting texts. Are you saying
tell Ethan Hawke after the show, please?
This one doesn't live up to the first, or what are we talking about?
Not lives up. It just doesn't seem to have, like the first one, the original.
Oh, it doesn't get the well. I mean, the first movie is. No matter how good this is, it's never going to live up to that because the original film was such a groundbreaking film of its time, of the genre. It was one of the first midnight movies. This was an event film, like when it blew up in the late 60s, early 70s. It was like a lot, again, the midnight movie that was like that. And Oh, what else was the midnight movie? Texas Chainsaw, Rocky Horror, probably some of the like Blood Feast stuff like that. Night of the Living Dead was it kick-started this subgenre, and when you're remaking it, I mean, they only remade it, to get the rights because they screwed up with the copyright on the original film and put it on the title when they changed it from, was it Night of the Blood something? What was it called originally?
Night of the Flesh Eaters.
Flesh Eaters.
Night of the Ghouls, right?
Or ghouls or something like that. Yeah, because Romero always said he never called them zombies; they were ghouls. Or, but not many remakes do surpass. Like the only remakes I can think of that people hold up where they almost forget about the original. They don't forget about it, but like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the Don Siegel one seems to get more attention than the original. I don't want to say Carpenter's Thing trumped the original because Howard Hawks' version gets still a lot of praise and love as being one of the Body Snatchers as well of the 50s. Like they're two of the biggest 50s horror films. But this movie came along at a time where I think horror was starting to die off a bit. It's right after the 80s craze.
1989 nearly killed horror.
89, 90, there was just kind of this lull. And then like the next year, Silence of the Lambs came out and suddenly everything was thriller. The 90s is full of thrillers. And even though we consider Silence walking the line of horror thriller, I just think and you're always, anytime you touch a classic like that, you're just going to have people say it's not the same and it's just not good. And I think what this movie lacks compared is how when Night of the Living Dead came out, it was a movie that pushed buttons and was something people had to cross lines that other films had to cross at that time. By 1990, there was not a lot Savini could do to shock or awe or make a statement about the civil rights. I mean, Night of the Living Dead came out during the civil rights movement.
Yeah.
I mean, and even though he didn't give Dwayne the job because he was black, it's kind of hard not to look at the imagery from Night of the Living Dead and not think of what they were seeing on the news and images of the rights and riots and all of that stuff going on at that time.
Dwayne was just the best man for the job.
Yeah, he was just fucking amazing. I was watching a little bit of the original this morning just to watch a scene of how Romero handled that similar scene that I'm going to do. And Dwayne was so authentic. It was just he doesn't look like he's acting. He doesn't, like, as good as Tony Todd is, Dwayne Jones was a fucking hell of an actor. For his time, there was a naturalism to him that I don't feel like I'm watching a guy saying his lines or thinking about. It seems very authentic to me. So yeah, I can see why they gave him the job. He's just damn good.
Yeah. Well, I think, and coming to this movie, and we're going to talk about the casting. I do believe that Tony Todd was the right guy for the job for this movie. He's talked about how. That was my wife's 9th birthday. He talks about there's no way to fill what's his name, Dwayne's shoes in this movie, but he did the best he could, and I thought he knocked it out, man. I thought he was fantastic.
I'm not taking anything away from Tony because Tony is phenomenal in this. This was kind of like, because I only knew Tony prior to this probably from Platoon, and I think maybe he had done like one or two other things.
Yeah, he had a very small role in Platoon.
Yeah,
also.
He's hardly in Platoon, but I remember him in Platoon because he made an impression. But yeah, he's hardly in it. But I don't know if what he did between Platoon and Night of the Living Dead. I can't remember. I know, right after Night of the Living Dead, he did like The Crow and
Candyman.
Candyman, of course. Candyman and The Crow.
Yeah.
But this was probably his first leading role of like a major, not really a major film, but a significant film.
Yeah, I'm sure it was.
I have to share a story about Tony. But I don't know if Sean's watching. Sean's been on the show. Sean Dolphin. This was his favorite movie. And when
I
I met
remember him.
and when I met Tony Todd, I wanted Sean to go, but Sean was battling cancer at the time and he couldn't go.
Oh,
So
man.
when I met Tony, I told Tony I gave Tony a drawing from this movie, and he said, "You want an autograph?" I said, "I appreciate that, but what would really be cool is," I told him the story about Sean. Would you call him up, say hi? And Tony's like, "Absolutely." So he actually took my phone and walked away from everybody and went and had a conversation with Sean.
That's cool.
For about 5 or 10 minutes.
That's
Just
awesome.
Tell him you're going to beat this man. You're going to do great. You got this, and that was pretty cool. So yeah, he didn't just like hi. He literally walked away from everyone and had a conversation with them from his booth. So that's kind of cool dude he is.
Yeah, he seems to be. He's such an imposing figure when you see him in person too. He's huge. Oh, well, not to you, Nate, because you're about as tall as he is.
I think he may be an inch or two taller. Man. I don't know.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
And he was
us short guys. He's impressively high.
No, I don't cut us short here. Us average height guys. Let's say that. Anyway, I want to hear from Seth. He hasn't said a word almost at all. Yo. Tell us about what you like about the story. There's not really much difference from the original movie, obviously, but there are some things.
No, so the original Night of the Living Dead is my second favorite horror movie of all time. It's very special to me.
I didn't know
that.
You keep things from me all the time, Seth.
No, because it was last year or the year before we did a show on the original, and I mentioned it then. So that's on you, buddy.
That is on me.
Look it up.
I'm calling old age on that one.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
so the original is a very special movie to me. It's one I've seen a lot, and this is a very good remake in a lot of ways. And I know George Romero himself is the one who updated the script. And he changed stuff around, of course. Like you guys were talking about with the ending being different because of basically the difference in the time and what's going on in the time. But he kind of swapped out one piece of social commentary for another. We had the whole thing where Barbara is seeing like the crowd of people with the guns shooting zombies hanging from a tree, stuff like that. Yeah. Saying, we're them, they're us, that type of stuff. So, and it was a necessary change, and I think that's what makes this stand out because you get that also very satisfying moment too, where Cooper makes it. Cooper's the one that makes it out alive, and she shoots him right in the head.
Yeah, I do love that scene. Yes,
it's a very satisfying moment too, and I'll probably, for my segment, I'm going to be going more into some of the character-related stuff that I kind of wanted to mention, but I do really like how this became more of Barbara's movie than the original was.
Mm-hmm.
She's kind of the one that's, while Cooper and Ben are arguing, she's kind of the one that's kind of taking control,
still getting shit done. Yeah,
and you still have that element where Ben wants to stay upstairs, Cooper wants to go downstairs, but then with Barbara being like the lead of this one, it presents a new option where she wants to just leave and go through the
They're
zombies.
moving so slow. Yeah.
So, but I do like this remake a lot because it stays close to the original, which helps that you have all the original people involved.
Mm-hmm.
All those guys were involved.
Most
with
of
this.
them.
Yeah. But they did some stuff different to make it stand on its own. And this is not George's movie, visually. It's shot differently than the way George did it and everything. So yeah, it's a good remake.
Yeah, and for the most part, the beats are the same, but it's a good story. Before we get into direction, since we're talking about the cast a little bit, let's do cast first, if you guys don't mind, the acting and the cast, because I think that I don't think Patricia Tallman gets enough praise for what she did. I mean, she's a stunt actor, really, and I think she was fucking amazing in this movie. I mean, this cast, we know a lot of these people from other horror movies. Even I can't remember the kid's name, but he was in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and you know what I'm talking about. The
Texas Chainsaw 3, and he was in what was the other one he was in?
Wasn't he in
Jason 7?
Yeah, 7.
Part 7, yeah. So
Birthday Boy.
Yeah. David or Michael or something. Anyway.
Michael, I think.
Yeah. I totally missed that.
So
he's kind of bad in this, though.
Yeah. I mean,
he's my least
Judy
favorite.
May.
Judy and him are kind of bad.
They're idiots. Country bumpkins. Uncle Reach. But I think that Tom Tolles, it's Tom, right?
Tom Tolles. I like him a lot.
Yeah, those three, Tony Todd, Patricia Tallman, and Tom, they carry this movie. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things I remember about seeing it for the first time is how good these three were together, because just like Seth said, they all had different ideas of what to do. I'm the boss up here, you're the boss down there, but at the same time, Barbara's looking for a way out. And the performances they put on are so great.
Yeah. Yeah, Patricia, from what I understand, goes back to college with Tom Savini. I think they went to college together. Yeah, so they've known her a long time. And yeah, she's a stunt woman. She doubled Laura Dern in Jurassic Park, and a few other big gigs.
She was I think she played Evil Ash in the fight scenes in Army of Darkness also. If not Evil Ash, she was something else. She was something in that.
I thought she was like the witch in the that's beating him up in the isn't that her?
Witch? Yeah,
Pit Witch.
Yeah, I think so.
I think that might be her.
Amazing, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a shame because she's really fantastic in this. And I think, what was it? Tom Savini said John Landis was talking to him one day. Said, "Hey, that Night of the Living Dead, good girl." Like he's talking about, he really liked her.
Yeah,
good actress, good choice.
She was really good. And
she was in Romero's Night Riders too.
I've never seen that. I never saw that.
It's an interesting movie.
I've heard. I heard it was an odd choice.
I love the ending.
You love it, don't you, Seth?
The ending makes it worth it.
Okay, I'll have to check that one out.
Worth it. Tom Savini and his sexy Burt Reynolds moments.
Oh. That right there makes me want to watch it.
It's like the origin of Sex Machine or something.
Nice.
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much.
That's awesome. I was just, when you said that, Burt Reynolds moments, I was like, could this be Sex Machine? I need to see that movie. I've been told about it so much over the years, but some of the rest of the cast, in my opinion, was inconsequential. Like the little girl, the Cooper's kids, and his wife. She was not bad, Helen. But really, it's those three.
I wish the young girl would have been younger. Like she looks like she's about 17, but they got her dressed like a little baby doll girl. So.
She should have been about 11, I guess.
Yeah,
maybe younger. But I mean,
they put braces on her.
Right? Yeah, but they
looks like she's.
They kind of kept her on that door, and I love that scene with Ben looking at the door. Oh, you want that too?
Want that one too?
Yeah. But yeah, I solid cast, and that's really because if the cast would have been bad, if they would have casted poorly in this, it could have ruined the whole movie. And honestly, Tony Todd, Patricia Tallman, and Tom Tolles carry this fucking movie.
They almost had Savini said that Eric LaSalle and Lawrence Fishburne read for it, but when Tony came in, apparently he started crying like every take or something, and he's like, they said, "No, we're done. This is the guy."
Yeah, that's studio problems. Always, it's always studio problems. I heard that Savini had a lot in mind for this movie that he didn't show up on the big screen.
Yeah, I think they were cutting scenes, and George wasn't there. So they kind of they would if George would have fought back against the studio.
Oh, George would have.
Yeah, but Tom was so green and probably had no clout that he kind of had to just do what they told him, or do what he was told, I guess. But yeah, he seems to be disgruntled about it. When Sean met him, he brought it up to Tom, and Tom was not like, he didn't seem like he wanted to talk about the movie at all.
Yeah, well, Jared, you remember when we saw Tom Savini at Horror Hound a few years ago, and you wanted to, he signed your Night of the Living Dead poster, and he just didn't see. He seemed so disconnected from that movie at that moment. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
because you asked him a question, I think.
He just, I don't know. Like, I've heard he's not very conversative with the fans a lot of times, depending on what mood he's in. Apparently Saturday morning he was not in a great mood.
It seems like he's always in a shitty mood. Although when I saw him, I met him the year before, and Reynolds was there, and he was more engaging with Reynolds, which I thought was kind of cool. So
I think it's I mean, I think the thing about someone like Tom, like makeup artists are artists, and artists can be very introverted and quiet.
That's true.
And they're not actors. I mean, even though Tom likes acting, and
Tom loves acting.
He loves acting. Yeah. But I don't think he's I'm here to be, Mr. Perfect for the fans. I think he's probably more, although I've heard he's real fun. Like he's one of the people at Horror Hound who has an open invitation. Anytime Tom wants to be there, he can be there. It doesn't matter what happens. And he's always flicking rubber bands at everybody. That's one of his notorious pastimes at horror conventions.
I'd love to be able to talk to him sometime, but that's probably never going to happen.
I got to talk to him briefly in the lobby one time when his grandson was running up and down the aisle.
He loves his grandson.
We were just hanging out and had a little brief conversation in the lobby together.
So what we're going to do next is we're going to do direction and cinematography, and then Nate, you're going to do your thing, if you don't mind. I didn't even read that. Also, Night of the Living Dead was based on I Am Legend, which is, yes. By the way, did I tell you I finally saw that
Last Man on Earth?
Yeah, with Vincent Price.
Vincent Price?
Dude, I'd never seen it before. I saw it late last year after we had talked about it a little bit. I loved it. It was kind of ridiculous in ways, but I loved the ending, and I loved it was good. But we may have to talk about that one of these days.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're going to double up here on direction, which we know Tom Savini directed. Obviously, there's him and Zombie Ben. And then, by the way, this movie's 33 years old almost. If you haven't seen it, you don't know what happens at the end. That's on you. I'm sorry. But Tom Savini, I thought, did a great job. And then the cinematography in this movie is outstanding, I think. But Nate, I'm going to let you go and do your thing. So tell me when you want me to change the image. I think I have them in order. So, yeah, man. You ready? You want me to throw an image up? Is this the first one?
Yeah.
Okay. Now
So
just tell me when you want me to change it.
Autopsy of a scene.
Oh, shit. I forgot. Yeah. Autopsy of... So the first time we're doing all this, so I got to get used to it.
Yeah.
Here we go. Here's the first image.
So the whole idea of this segment was because everyone was getting a segment, and I thought, well, I don't know what to do. So I thought, well, I'll take a scene and I'll try to dissect it because I have made films, and I thought maybe I could find something. This movie, I really couldn't figure out what scene to do, but I mean, just some things on direction overall in this film, since we do have that segment of just direction in general. One of the cool things I think Tom did is he approached this film as a effects guy, which is a different thing. Anytime an effects guy helms a film, there are a lot of differences between what you're going to see in other films. Sometimes I think that works really well. Sometimes I don't think it worked as good for this movie because Tom was really focused on seeing impact and like violence. And when violence happens, he wanted to feel things happening. So like when she's like hitting Reach with the poker, they have you can kind of tell it's a dummy when she's actually making contact because he didn't want to use a fake prop poker. He wanted to use a real one and have the impact. And so you can kind of feel like it's a dummy. And then like when Johnny hits the headstone, the first time you see it, like, whoa, but like, you watch it again, you're like, God, that looks, it's like it lasts too long. It's really
bad that,
like some of the edits because working with effects people, they put so much work into their work, so much time and effort for it to be on screen for a few seconds, or to be, lit very dark, or to hide it, and sometimes they're like, well, I want to show the work, even though Tom didn't do the effects work on this movie. He let the team do it. Maybe he lingered on some of those scenes longer than another filmmaker would have been. It was like, oh, that doesn't look 100% right or real. So there's a lot of scenes where the things really look great, like like the guy's been hit by the truck and laying there in a hole with the fake legs, so he looks all twisted up. And one other fun little thing he did, there's a shot where Barbara's running up to the house in the beginning, and it's a gravel road, and you can see that she's barefoot. And when she runs from the wide into the barn by the haystacks, and there's a whiskey barrel there. Well, there's a crew person under the whiskey barrel putting shoes on her, and you can kind of tell if you watch the scene, so she can run across the gravel and not hurt her feet. And so it's little things like he would do things like that, probably because he has done stunts himself, and because he's an effects artist. But I think some of his direction is guided towards his background as a stunt guy, gag guy who knows how to try to make those things work. But with this scene, I chose this scene. It's an exposition scene that you see in the original. Ben's telling Barbara where he was when all this stuff was happening, where he got the truck. He's like, in the original film, he's like turning over a table and taking the legs off so he can barricade
diner
stuff.
Scene.
Yeah, talking about the diner scene. So this is that scene as well. So it's an exposition scene. Most of you probably know what exposition scene is. For the people who don't, it's just someone's giving information. Usually filmmakers try to avoid that. In the original, usually one thing you don't want to do is repeat what people already know, which Romero kind of does, because Barbara starts telling Ben what the audience already knows about what happened to Johnny and all that. Although I really like her performance in the original when she's, and he fought this man and all that, her neurotic stuff. But in this scene, Ben's explaining what he's witnessed and the stupidity he's seeing and the people, all the talking. So he's going through the kitchen right here. He's looking for stuff that they may be able to use to board up things or whatnot. So
the window behind him's out, right?
Yeah, the window's broken there, so he's probably trying to figure out how to.
Yeah, he already killed a zombie before that, so that window's broken out.
Yeah. So while they're doing this, we see Barbara in the living room, and she's got a poker, and she's cleaning up the mess of the dead people and stuff. So she's like playing golf with this severed hand, which is hilarious. And Reed is like propped up against the thing. So as he's giving this dialogue, Savini's showing us something to keep it interesting. You want to keep things interested. So it's called busy work in the industry. So you give your actors busy work. So she's playing golf with this severed hand while Ben's going through the kitchen trying to find stuff. He finds a toolbox. He's finding, he's finding the things he's going to need to tell the story. He's probably finding his nails and hammers and things like that as he's talking. And she's still doing the whole golf putting thing. And then
I like that shot too.
Yeah, I love the shot. It's funny. It's kind of funny. And the original Barbara's just kind of almost catatonic. She grabs like a sheet and wraps it up and walks and sits in a chair as he's doing his work. In this, we're cutting back and forth, keeping it interesting. And then Ben moves into the other room. They do like a dolly shot from the adjoining room. There's a close up at Reed, and she's like she pulls him down with his coveralls. Ben here is moving to another scene. We pass through the wall. He opens up a cabinet on the other side, and he's talking about how the guys had put a bunch of zombies on a truck, and they stopped to let one of them in, and they poured out. And so he's just going on about how everything's falling apart, and all these people are making poor decisions in a panic, and no one knows what the hell's going on, but everybody, of course, always has an opinion on what's going on and what's right, which we all have just lived through with the pandemic. So
anything really.
everyone's an expert now, you know. So he's kind of making fun of everyone's an expert. They know what they're doing, but they don't. And then she wraps up the Uncle Reed's. I know she had the poker, but I don't know how the hell, like, realistically she got him onto the rug and in the right spot.
Didn't she wrap the poker up too?
Yeah, she puts it on top of it, almost like it's a burial thing.
Yeah.
She wraps him up. She puts the poker on there. And then she's looking down at it, and Ben comes in and joins her, looks at her, then looks at what she's done. So this is kind of like the start.
Guys, I hate to cut you off, but I got to get off.
All right, dude.
I told you I had to get off by 7:15. I got to go.
All right, buddy. See you later.
All right, man.
I didn't get to do my thing. Thanks.
Okay. Yep. Well, he said not tonight.
Yeah, anyway. He did say not tonight.
Yeah.
So this is where we start to see the two working as a team. It cuts to the outside of the house. The porch light is off. Gets a light. First, it cuts to the house with the light off. Then it cuts to the shed, which is the adjoining. So we're seeing that.
Yeah, so I don't have the porch light.
So in some ways, he's showing this shot to say, you know, we may see zombies approaching, maybe. So he keeps it in a wide. And then we see them dumping the bodies. Reed and the other body he kicked on that was on the porch already. He kicks them off. They put Reed's down.
Yeah.
She retrieves the poker, and there's some boots sitting on the porch that she grabs because she's still barefoot. And then they go back inside, and he closes the door, turns the porch light off. So now they're here. She's wiping the blood off. She's put the boots there, and he does this in a one-take shot. Starts in the kitchen. They're shooting from the living room, and so we see the two of them standing there. And he's continuing to talk about exposition, blah, blah, blah. Barbara's been quiet this whole time.
It's Tony Todd's scene.
It's Tony Todd's scene. She's doing her busy work, cleaning off her face and the blood off of her. Tony grabs some matches, and he moves into the living room. And they rack focus to Tony Todd. And he's in the dark originally. And then he lights this match to give us some light source to put light on him. Barbara's still back there. She's going to move into this room and sit and create another setup, basically a two-shot where she's putting on the boots on screen left as he's telling his story about this being at the diner. This is where he's talking about the diner and how a guy showed up with a machine gun and just started pumping holes and everything. And she crawls over there and sits in because they've racked focus on Tony, she's out of focus, but to keep her in focus so we can see her, she crawls over to him. And that's when he snaps the twig saying, you got to get him in the head. So the reason I chose this scene is just, it's a good way of showing busy work and keeping this in one shot, moving it, keeping things moving. You want to keep your actors moving, keep the shot interesting. Don't just linger. There's nothing worse an exposition scene that's not moving or things aren't happening. So, and Romero did a good job of it in the original. Like I said, Ben is dismantling that table while this is happening. And Tom does this really nice one-er right here where it starts in the kitchen, moves in here, he creates a light source with the fireplace, and then she crawls in so that we can see her response to when he snaps the twig, because until she crawls over, she's out of focus, so we wouldn't be able to see her reaction.
Yeah.
So it's kind of an odd thing that she crawls over to him. Like, realistically, she wouldn't have crawled over and nailed beside him.
Right.
But cinematically, that's what we need to happen so we could see her in focus and have both of them in the shot for her response to the snapping of the twig. Even though she barely snaps. I mean, this is the part where Barbara's starting to actually show signs of, all right, I've been through hell.
Kind of snapping herself in a way.
Snapping herself, yeah. And Tony in the scene is crying. You can't really see it in that shot, but on the reverse. I think you
see it, yeah, but definitely in the.
And he's saying that this is hell on earth. This is pure hell on earth. This is when he's kind of really gripping that. This is the first thing. I think this is probably the first moment he's had to like stop and think and rest since all this happened, because he's probably rushed straight from that ordeal to this house and then dealing with the zombies and her. And then this is like probably the first time they've had to pause. Yes, the storyboards, 6 weeks to shoot yet.
I'm sorry.
I could say, yeah, they did. Tom did storyboard this entire film before they shot, which is, I like to do that myself because it saves time. Some filmmakers want to be spontaneous and they want to make up things or find where they want to do the shots. But because of the time limits that they were on this film, you go in, you say, all right, these are the shots we need. And they stuck. He said we stuck to our storyboards, so they knew exactly where they wanted. That helps you know where you're going to put the lighting, where you're going to put equipment, where the crew's going to be, what area needs to be set dressed. All those things are important. So, and even though he had it all planned and he had it all storyboarded, and they were making good time, the producers were still trying to cut corners and cut money and telling them you need to cut this, you need to cut that. So. I'm sure it was extremely frustrating. There were things they wanted to do. They're saying, no, we don't have the time or money for that. And he's like, well, we probably did. We planned it all out to be able to do it, but someone's always got to cut corners on things. And I'm sure that's what he's not happy about because it's not his full vision.
All right. So that was Nate's segment. I keep wanting to say autopsy. Is it anatomy of a scene?
I guess it's autopsy, I think. So I went with the horror theme.
Yeah, autopsy. Oh, it is autopsy. Son of a bitch. So I could have used Herbert West. Yeah. Anyway, so next time we do that, I'm gonna make the last thing that we do the direction and the cinematography, and then the score will come before that. There's not much to this score, but I like it overall. Is there anything you guys want to say about the score? It's very kind of minimalistic, but
I don't
that?
know. I don't know what the noise is. Like if you hear it, that kind of creepy. I don't know. Like when that opening shot with the moon,
there's like a God. It's like a crick. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. It's like this really cool sound effect. It's a sound effect.
Yeah.
In music, but the music itself is odd sometimes because it sounds almost like it would have worked in like Day of the Dead or something. Like it feels tropical or Jamaican or something or reggae.
Yeah.
It felt kind of like it was like, is this a Day of the Dead leftovers?
It kind of felt like it because definitely. So the song that I chose to open up with gave me, when I was listening to it, I was like, I could see this, but it kind of reminds me of Day of the Dead too a little bit. But yeah, so I like it though. But the thing you get more out of this than anything for me is atmospheric sounds than, kind of like little. I don't know what you call those, Nate. Like there's like a weird noises that you hear every now and again, and it starts from
weird sound design stuff.
I like it though.
Yeah, it's really that always stuck with me from this movie.
Yeah.
I remember that and digging that sound effect.
Yeah, for some reason though, well, not for some reason, but I do like just comparing all the movies. I do think Dawn of the Dead has the best music out of all of them. It probably also has most music.
There's something really great about that original, and just as funny that it was just like found stock music. It wasn't like made for the movie, but it feels so perfect. And George even like he's so linked into stock music that even though he had Goblin on Dawn of the Dead, some of that stuff is stock music that Goblin didn't do.
Yeah. What was the ending song for Dawn of the Dead? Dun, dun, dun. What is that from?
The conch song.
Yeah. Is that stock music of some kind?
It might be.
Okay. All right. So man, these segments were moving right along. Seth, do you want to do your thing now? Are you ready for that?
Sure.
All I gotta do is press the button.
Evil dies tonight!
Explain what you're gonna do first, because Evil Dies Tonight explains nothing. Except for they tried to kill Michael Myers and Halloween Kills and failed.
Yeah. What I would like to do is typically try to talk about characters, protagonist and antagonist specifically, and about their goals and motivations. and arcs even throughout the films. But I have been not feeling well, so I've been out of it. So I haven't really had time to really think this one through, even though I watched this movie twice today.
It's a good movie, though.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, mostly, I guess with this one, I do kind of want to talk a little bit about the differences with the characters between the original and this one. In this one, they were definitely a lot more amped up. You know, Cooper especially was kind of dialed up to 11 as far as being the antagonist, because it's really, you know, the story here is, you know, with Cooper and Ben is just two different people with two different ideologies and, you know, ways they want stuff to be done, and they're both hard-headed. And Cooper and Earl did have moments, did help out here and there, where Cooper in this one, he just stood back, you know, and he was much more, you know, he was much more confrontational in this one, you know, and Ben was a little bit more confrontational in this one too, but he did have his kind of sympathetic moments. You know, there was that scene in the cellar where we saw the girl on the table, you know, when Barbara takes the gun, she starts shooting that one zombie. Is he dead? Is he dead? My favorite scene in this movie, by the way.
I love that.
You know, but the look on his face, you know, like he's kind of like concerned for, you know.
Because she's losing it.
Yeah,
Well,
so,
he addresses that too.
Yeah. And then, you know, mostly there's that big change with Barbara. Like the Barbara in the original, I think, is actually as annoying as it can be. It's a very realistic performance. It's a very realistic character with the way everyone reacts differently to stuff, and there will be those people out there who in this situation will be totally kind of shell-shocked by that, by what she witnessed. But here, they took it in a different direction, and she did, you know, she had her moment of kind of losing it, and then she kind of got herself together, and she kind of toughened up, and she really kind of became, she almost kind of became like someone who would be the leader. You know, she was thinking rationally while Cooper and Ben are arguing nonstop.
Somewhat rationally.
Yeah, somewhat rationally.
I mean, she's got. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, I mean, there was that moment where Cooper and Ben were. I think it was that part with the TV where that smashes, and they're fighting with each other. And Barbara goes to the door, she opens it up, and you know she's, you know, she figures the body of Reed would have the key. You know, so. You know, she kind of takes charge in this one. Yeah. She's definitely much more of the main character, and then, you know.
Yeah, imagine my letdown seeing this first, and then going back to the 1968 and seeing that Barbara. I'm like, she saw, like, I mean, that's the thing with me. I saw a lot of remakes first or sequels. In this one, it's like she sucks compared to Barbara in 1990 because she didn't really do much, you know. And I always remember people talking about Barbara, and Barbara's kind of the name you always remember from Night of the Living Dead because of that line that Johnny gives, "They're coming to get you, Barbara." But Patricia Tallman, in my opinion, was a better Barbara.
Yeah, I could definitely see how someone who saw the remake first would absolutely hate the Barbara if they watched the original afterward.
Yeah, and like you said, it's not. I mean, Judith does a fine job of playing like someone who's like it's almost like some people want to give her shit because of what they did with Patricia. It's like, well, both of them do a hell of a job. You can't take one from the other. Like, it's not Judith's fault that. Like,
no, when I'm saying what I said, I'm talking about when I first saw it.
Like, I know. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about people who I see a lot of people bitch about Judith.
No, her
performance.
As I've become refined in my movie reviewing, I see what she does with her performance. You know, yeah, for sure, I agree with you.
I will. I hate to say, I don't really find Bill Moseley's performance that great in this compared to Russ in the original. Like I like Russ also felt more natural in his shit. I think
I agree.
Bill feels like he's going way over the
I
top
think
with
Bill Moseley is being Bill Moseley and hamming it up a little bit, you know.
And that opening, for some reason, I think it's the title treatment in the music feels very like 90s TV movie to me. It feels cheap. There's something about it. I can't stand that opening, the way the music and the title sheet are used. It looks like a cheap
they kind
movie.
Of just jump right in.
And the rest of the movie doesn't look that cheap or bad. Like it's like that opening feels like a bad, like again, like a Stephen King miniseries from 1990 instead of, you know, a cinema film. Go ahead, Seth.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing with this movie with the characters. You know, with the original script from Romero and Russo, the characters kind of felt very natural. You know, they were, you know, well written to the point where they were believable people, believable kind of lines in a way. And whereas this one, you know, it's basically a rewrite of that. And so Romero kind of like he changed quite a bit, you know, and he really amped up the dialogue and the characters. He turned everyone up to 11 on this one, I think, in comparison to the others. And so, you know, the whole thing with Johnny, the original definitely felt more of like of a natural person, whereas this one, where, you know, he's very over the top and theatrical, you know,
he's coming off of writing Day of the Dead, which is really amped up compared to the other
big time
movies.
Exactly. And Cooper is much more of a Rhodes
in
this than he is of a, you know.
Yeah, Tom Tolles' version is a total asshole. Like, just like, you believe he wouldn't let them down if they needed to get down. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and there's a way that you look at him and kind of understand he's looking out for his daughter, if so he says. I always thought of him looking out for himself more than anybody else.
I think he's very much trying to swing his dick around more than he's he doesn't seem to be as. I believed in the original, the guy was really looking out for his family and worried about them. And this one, I don't know. I think this guy's just like some drunk blowhard who probably married her because he knocked her up. I don't think he doesn't seem very warm towards his family. He's yelling with them most of the time. He's yelling with his wife.
He comes off as selfish.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, doesn't he?
He's the Weasley. He's the Weasley guy. What do they say? The cliche guy. He's the guy that gets bit by a zombie and doesn't tell anybody.
Yeah.
Like Savini from the Slodon.
Yeah.
Like, he's like the guy that's, I'm fine. I think they said that about Steve Bannon. He's the guy in the horror movie that gets bit or sick and won't tell anybody. But yeah, Tom Tolles' version is very unlikable compared to the original, even though
I like him the original like that though.
Yeah, I mean, he gives a great performance, but to the point where when she shoots him at the end, you're not like, oh, that was kind of crossing the line. It's like, he probably
it was a golf clap, you know.
Which that's part of the music I do like, the final music of the credits.
Oh, I love the credits music. Yeah.
Yeah.
Seth, let me ask you. When we do remakes, this is definitely what you should do for the segment is character comparison. Like, is there any characters that you actually, because you said Night of the Living Dead 68 is your number 2 horror film, so it's basically the poop version, right?
No, the colorized version is the poop.
Anyway, is there any characters you prefer in 90 versus 68? Their depictions.
Besides Barbara?
Yeah. Well, I mean Barbara.
Yeah, I don't know, because I don't know. I do prefer the original in a lot of different ways. As far as characters go, I think they did a little bit more with Tom and Judy Rose.
they did.
in this one
Yeah,
that they
good
did
time.
in the original. They were just kind of there in the original. Yeah, that's about it.
Judy Rose can drive real good. Can't you do
Daddy
that?
has trucks.
Yeah, their characters are so funny. Also, you got to give props for them showing that this is set in Pennsylvania without saying it by him wearing
Steelers
a
hat.
Steelers hat. Yeah, I thought that
Iron
was
City
great.
beer and all that.
Yeah, which that's another thing. Wasn't there a moment while they're all putting up the shit and Cooper's just drinking a beer? Isn't that?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I thought so. Yeah, he's such a fucking schmuck. I don't ever say that word. I think I'm gonna start adding it to my vocabulary. Schmuck. Uh, anyway, anything else you want to add to this, Seth? Your segment?
No, I think that's it. I mean, just one more thing on Cooper is it's definitely the way he carries himself in this one. You know, his body language and his kind of like accent. You know, he's holding his beer and he has an accent and he's yelling at Ben. You know, he's much more of an asshole in this one, whereas in the original he was just a petty guy who was losing an argument with someone.
Also, Toles kind of has a physical presence that you think, oh, well, he's not going to back down from Tony Todd.
He's a bigger guy than the original.
He's a big guy than the original guy.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. So, next segment is mine, and it's called the Razor's Burn. Oh, I just thought of another one. Hold on. What I'm going to do is I've got 5 questions now, and I'm going to flash them on the screen, and I want everybody to answer them. Both of you, one at a time, please. And then everybody that's watching, if you could answer whatever you can answer the best way, we're going to go ahead and do the Razor Burn.
Oh, it burns!
I hope everybody liked that. So anyway, this is my segment, and what we're gonna do, like I said, is I got 5 questions, okay? And Seth kind of already answered one of them in a way, but I've got 3, 4, 5 questions. First one is for everybody. Who do you prefer, the 1968 Barbara or the 1990 Barbara? Seth, you don't have to answer. You already did.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I preferred Tallman's version. I mean, that's the more. Again, they're both great. They're extremely totally different characters. But yeah, Tallman is more the kind of character I'd go for, as far as in my own writing.
I like how proactive she is.
Yeah, I like that she has her moment, but then when her and Ben start teaming up, when the other people come up, Barbara and Ben are actually more of they're a team at that point, and these people are invading. Like, so there's actually a 2 teams here that are competing instead of just Ben and this catatonic girl who's just like crying and going nuts in the corner. So Tom Toll's character has even more to contend with because he thinks he can fuck with Barbara, but Barbara could probably handle him too. So, and she does. She takes him out. So,
and plus, she's got the best arc of any characters in the course of a few hours. She goes from this mousy-looking librarian to this tough as nails badass by the end of the movie, who's popping zombies, in the head with a shotgun or a rifle.
Has so many good scenes. Like Seth talked about the part where is he dead? Is he dead? And that great moment, of course, where she is walking out. She's not killing anyone, but she gets the woman with the baby doll, and she just starts crying and like losing, like, oh God, like her response to that, and then the way she responds to the rednecks and how she's just she's so much more intelligent.
Yeah.
And she's got she's got an assessment of everything, and they're just like, whatever, laughing at her, and she's just, and then that
fun.
She's
I like her response.
Yeah, she's like, fun, huh?
Yeah.
You bunch of dumbasses. And she's just like, she's watching them shoot the corpses hanging from the trees.
I wonder, like, I wonder if not for Tony Todd or Ben, if she would have survived the night and became who she became throughout the movie. You know, like,
I think she needed him. I think
Yeah,
she
I
probably would
do.
have died.
yeah,
I think she would have got killed.
I do too. Okay, and then the next question. Uh,
He empowered her in many ways by
a lot of the stuff.
treating her the way he did.
All right. Well, whose side are you on, Ben or Cooper? basically, what I'm asking is, you know,
Ben Cooper masks.
upstairs or downstairs?
Upstairs or downstairs? I mean, I saw the debate going on this week about, you know, Cooper was right. Some people are like, no, because when the daughter turned, there's no way Cooper would have let Ben shoot the daughter.
No, they would have had a
blah,
gunfight
blah.
in the basement.
But that doesn't mean that Cooper wasn't right, that
Mm-hmm.
the basement was safe, because it did. Like, Ben does survive the night in the basement. And, you know, if they hadn't sawed the door open, which I don't even know why they're sawing the door open. I guess just make sure there's no zombies in there. Like, I mean, obviously there's no zombies boarded up the basement door.
Yeah.
But
well, there was that piece of wood on the inside of the door.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like the zombies didn't do that, but I guess they don't know that's what's blocking it. Maybe they think there's some zombies in there. But and then the attic was safe. Cooper survived the attic, so. But yeah, I gotta go with Ben. I think Ben's an awesome guy. Both versions. He's someone. Well, you said he does challenge Cooper, but I think he has to. You know, he can't let this guy run over him. But you know, there's things about Ben where just the moment where he stops the boy to not come upstairs so he can cover up his cousin's body so he doesn't see him. Like, there's this consideration.
He's a nice guy.
He's a very nice guy who's thinking beyond the moment. Like, he's thinking ahead of like, what can I do to take care of these people as well as myself and to save us all. He's a total classic hero character. Yeah. He's Gene Hackman in the Poseidon Adventure. You know, he's like, we're getting out of the ship. You know, and you follow me and I'm gonna get you out of here. And that's the kind of leader that, you know, Ben is.
All right, Seth, what about you, man? I see you as a total Cooper guy. You're already in a basement.
Well, believe it or not, I am an asshole, but I'm not that big of an asshole, so I'm gonna go Ben. Thank you for that, though.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, you're in a basement already. No, I agree. I think Ben was but the weird thing is, I wanted to ask this question, but I didn't want to be part of the Razor's Burn, but I'm going to do it anyway. Do you think the way Cooper was acting was in any way race related?
No,
I
don't.
I mean, I get that. I get that feeling when I watch it sometimes. Like, does he think he's superior because he's a white dude? Like, you know, I just feel like that whenever I watch it.
I think for me, he seems like he's the type of guy who just doesn't like being challenged.
Okay, yeah.
He's the type of guy who would be kind of a bully to everyone. I think he'd be a bully to Tom and
he was a bully to
Judy.
his wife. You got a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, with Ben not standing down, you know, it caused him to enrage even further.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think sometimes racism it's based out of fear, and I don't think he's afraid of Ben.
No, that's a good point. Okay.
But I think, yeah. I mean, who knows? I mean, I won't throw that on him. But I mean, Cooper, I would put it past Cooper to be a racist. But I don't think he shows any. I don't think he ever shows any racist behavior.
Yeah, maybe not. All right, next question. Cooper again.
He's prejudiced against yo-yos.
Yeah. Was Cooper really bringing the TV downstairs or to the basement? Because he was bringing it down, and then they broke it, and he's like, can't get any reception in the basement, which I don't know how true that is, because back in around that time, my friends had a basement. We watched TV down there all the time with an antenna.
He dropped the fucking antenna and just kept going.
Right.
It's like, so maybe he wasn't. But I think he was. Because he was sneaky about it. He wasn't he wasn't just like out in the open. Oh, I'm going to bring it downstairs so we can hear. But he's like looking around like that. Yeah, he's looking around. Yeah, he's looking around like he doesn't want to get caught.
Right, and he could have said it anywhere downstairs, but he was literally. I mean, how did it get broke? They were at the basement door.
Yeah,
the TV was in the threshold.
It was in the threshold. Cooper was carrying the TV over the threshold. Yeah, I think he was totally taking it downstairs. Because I know you can get reception downstairs in the basement.
Oh, he was gonna Stu Mocker his daughter.
Well, she would have lived, right? Okay. This is kind of a broad question, but what did you guys think of the added gunfight in the movie that we didn't really see in the original movie, right? So we got Tony Todd versus Cooper fighting with guns in the middle of this house.
It's one of my favorite visuals is Tom Toe shooting at Ben as the daughter's coming towards Barbara.
Mm-hmm.
There's something really cool about that shot.
Yeah.
It's one of the most epic shots in the movie.
It's very intense. That whole scene is very intense between the gunfire, what's going on with Barbara. Yeah, because the entire thing with this movie for me is the elevation of everything. It just keeps elevating. And with intensity, and this gunfight's extremely intense, and then Ben gets hit, and yeah, I like it. Seth, what about you, man?
Yeah, I like it too because it's a key part of the big change with the ending, of this movie. So instead of the daughter killing Cooper in the basement, or no, she killed him upstairs in the original, right?
Yeah,
whatever,
she eating him or something like that.
Yeah, but in this one, there is that conflict where, you have the daughter coming towards Ben and Barbara, and Cooper just refuses to shoot because that's his daughter, and then I just really like that. It was kind of like, it kind of had almost like a Western type standoff thing.
Yeah,
shooting at one's up high, one's down low. It's about something that's personal. It was a nice big moment.
The only thing I could have added to it is if Cooper said, "I got the high ground, don't try it." Anyway, go ahead, Nate.
Well, yeah, it does. It's the one part of true humanity that Cooper shows, and that he's like, "It's my little girl. I can't shoot my little girl." So it's just, and even if you don't like him, you understand as a parent, as a father of a little girl.
I don't know what I would do in that situation.
Yeah, I don't think it went through my head watching it this week. Yeah. If that were my daughter, I mean, honestly, I'd probably want to die anyway if my daughter was dead.
Yeah, me too.
So I don't know.
Well, I mean, he was also kind of refusing to accept the fact that the people that were attacking were dead throughout the entire movie, and then you saw it even on his face when he was watching the news report, where he almost kind of looked satisfied when the anchor was brushing off. Yeah. So, but yeah, and it was, Ben points his gun at the girl, and it just seemed that was a kind of really natural, and like you said, the one moment of humanity that he had was kind of almost understandable.
Which kind of plays into what, the division of Ben and Cooper is that Ben has literally seen what these things are. He saw a zombie take 20 shots and not go down. I don't know a man that can do that. I don't know a man that can walk around with his neck broken. I don't know, so there's something we ain't never seen before. Whereas Cooper hasn't experienced, he just says, one of them things bitter, he has no idea the level of, seriousness, which is also odd that he's even though he doesn't think that's what it is, he's the most frightened in that he's I'm going to barricade myself in the basement. You know, so he's obviously afraid. Otherwise, he'd be trying to get his daughter to help.
Yeah, well, they didn't have a car though. Also,
Yeah,
and
that's
they
true.
didn't know where the keys for the pump were. Which that's one of my favorite parts of the movie is when Tony Todd's down there and there they are.
Yeah,
You know,
he just starts laughing. It's a great
Yeah.
scene.
Such a great. I mean, that's one of the things. Like, I'm glad to see that.
That's a
like,
great
when
Twilight Zone ending.
Right. Yeah. I'm glad to see though when I put the that we were doing this show up on the Horror Syndicate's Facebook page, huge response to it. Like people are just outpouring with love for this movie, and that makes me very happy because like for a long time thought I was the only one who liked this movie because everybody praises the original and it's deserved. It's deserved. It's deserved that the original it's a fucking top 10 horror movie of all time, in my opinion. You okay, Nate?
Yeah, I'm just doing something.
Okay. Anyway, but I love this movie, and I'm glad that so many of our followers enjoy this movie, and same thing with you guys. I'm glad that you both enjoy the movie, and you can enjoy both movies because there are enough differences. And one of the biggest differences is my last question: does the ending change work better for its time? So obviously the difference is Tony Todd is a zombie, or Ben is a zombie when you open up the basement door, and in the original, Ben is just killed off by one of the hunter guys, and he's not a zombie.
I mean, I still like the original ending just for what it represents. Not just the racial thing, because I don't think they shot it because it was a black man. I just think they shot but it's still really tragic that he survived. He did everything right in some ways. He made it out, and then he gets killed by friendly fire, basically. And it's a horrible thing to do it, and then to see his body, because I mean they show us, Romero shows what happens to Ben's body, like where he's just meats basically being carted around and burned and or whatever. I think it's just a better ending than the remake, but I don't think the remake ending's bad. And you know, why repeat the original if you could do something different? So I applaud. I think they did the right choice in changing it just to give us a different ending. So there's a payoff for the original fans who were like, well, if it just ended the same way, we would have been, you know, oh well, we saw that coming.
Yeah, and yeah, I'm glad that they did something different. Well, because when I saw the original after the fact, because I saw the 1990 version, and then within like 2 or 3 weeks, I was hounding my mom to get me to the mall to get the first one on VHS because somebody told me it was only like $5, and I got it, and I still have my VHS of it actually. And after I watched that, I honestly thought it was a race-driven kill when they killed Ben
in the remake.
In the original.
Oh,
okay. I thought, yeah, because
well, I mean, they can't see him. Like they just see somebody moving in the house.
I know, but the you know, you get this image of good old country boys. Every single one of them were white, and then there's a black man coming out of the basement. You know, I mean, that was my interpretation of at the time.
Yeah.
And I mean, after we've discussed Night of the Living Dead before, and I've discussed it with so many people, I don't really see it that way as much now. By the way, here's the picture of Ben as a zombie. Mm-hmm. He looks fantastic. But I don't know. I think maybe not for its time, but I do think the ending with Ben being a zombie after finding the keys and going through everything he went through, and then Cooper living was kind of a curveball. Seth, what about you? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I saw the original so many times before seeing the remake. Mm-hmm. And so when I did get around to seeing the remake, I was genuinely surprised about the change. So I was expecting the same thing, that most of the film sticks to the very same beats as the original. And then it just does something completely different at the end, which was kind of nice and refreshing. And I prefer the original ending as well, because I just love sometimes kind of like the darker, ironic endings like that, where this guy survives the entire night only to be mistaken for a ghoul and shot.
Yeah.
You know, but I think the ending for the remake works better for the remake, especially with the way that they changed Barbara throughout the whole movie. So I felt like the ending for the remake was necessary for that particular character change, especially because it became less about, in a way, it became less about Cooper and Ben. She had a much larger role in this one, but yeah, it works good for this movie.
Plus, it helps this 1990 Night of the Living Dead stand on its own with all the other stuff that is changed, which isn't very much, because you don't want to get a Gus Van Sant Psycho remake where it's shot for shot the same, and this one has a good amount of differences, but the ending really helps it stand on its own versus the original. And both endings, to both of their credits, are really good endings, in my opinion. I really love also when Cooper comes down, he's like, he looks very relieved, and then Barbara just shoots him. I love it. Fuck you, Cooper. But that's my last question. I appreciate everybody who well, you guys mostly, and a couple of viewers chimed in. The last thing before we start wrapping up is I'm doing the 5-star reviews again on the Horror Syndicate's Facebook page, and this movie has broken the record for the most ratings. It's over 700. We usually get about 300, maybe. This one's gotten 700, and it's got an audience score of 88%. Our audience, so that's pretty cool. 88% by the people who follow the Horror Syndicate. Also, we are less than 300 new likes to 25,000, which was my goal from the beginning. And once we hit 25,000, I'm retiring, and you'll never see me again. No. But anyway, so let's wrap this up with some final thoughts on Night of the Living Dead. Nate, would you give us your final thoughts on this top 10 horror remake?
I like it. I always have. The first time I saw it in 1990, I didn't see it in theaters, but I saw it probably 91. Probably rented it, or it came on cable or something. Yeah, I remember really liking the feel of it. It's something my friend Sean always liked and pointed out, which we didn't talk about, was the zombies look really excellent in this film. There's a lot, like the makeup was even a step further, because I think Savini really hit a high mark with Day of the Dead, but I think these zombies, the thing about this one is it's not as gory or violent as Romero films got. He kind of dialed it back a bit, and he didn't want it to be that way. He didn't want it. He kind of was reserved, which is really, I think, a really good thing to mention about Tom Savini for someone who was known for that. To say, well, I'm not going that way. He could have made this a gore fest, and he did. Of course, this is after like the MPAA was really cracking down on horror. But the fact that it isn't extremely violent and gutty and glory and all that.
It had its moments, though.
It has its moments, but it really, there's no one's getting their guts ripped open like in Dawn of the Dead or Day of the Dead. There's
choke on them.
Like like we see one scene really where the zombies are eating like Judy Rose and them, and it's in a wide shot. It's not close up.
And
he doesn't go in
cooked.
and show it. They're already cooked. They're just having barbecue at that point. Yeah. And so he does. I like that Savini restrained himself on it.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't sound like that he had to cut things out that would have made it different or more violent. But yeah, the zombies look really excellent in it. I think
they're also very fresh compared to the other movies.
Yeah, I don't know where it falls on my all-time zombie rankings. It could be in a top 10. I think it's definitely in the top 15. It could be a top 10.
Nathan doing a ranking tonight.
But as far as remakes go, yeah, it's up there. It's a really good one. I don't know if it's one of the all-time best horror remakes, but it's again another probably 15, 20 top 20 because there's a lot of great remakes.
The Thing, The Blob, Night of the Living Dead.
Nah, I can't do that. I guess if we're talking about
well,
classic
I mean, there's
black
Hills
and white
Have Eyes
movies
has got it on
remade.
there too. Yeah.
But Hills Have Eyes, and I really, there's a lot of other ones I like. I mean, because there's a lot that people forget, like the House of Wax from the 50s is remake, and
that's true, and it was remade again with Paris Hilton.
Yeah, Nosferatu was a good remake. There's a lot of, and we got a new one of those coming. So, but I really like this one. We didn't do the 1-star reviews on Amazon. There were a lot of people who thought this was a piece of shit and sucked and never should have been remade, and all the actors except for Tony Todd sucked, and I saw a lot of that stuff. But again, it was like 1% of the reviewers thought that it sucked. So that's the haters. That's how they are. They are a very small group.
Well, out of the 700 ratings we have, 2 gave it a 1-star rating. 13 gave it 2 stars. So that's very telling. Also,
if they think this is a bad remake, they should check out both of the remakes of Day of the Dead.
Oh my God. We will not be covering those movies.
Thank God. Thank God.
Yeah. Crazies was a decent remake. Yeah. All right, Nate. Anything else you want to add before we go to Seth Rooney?
I've talked enough.
I've talked enough. Hey, it was very balanced tonight, in my opinion. I like the way this is working out. Seth, who's had a great connection tonight. What about you?
Yeah, that's weird, isn't it?
Let's not jinx it.
Yeah. I enjoy this remake. Like Nate, I don't know if it's in my top 10, but it's definitely a good remake.
We're going to do an episode on the top 25 remakes at some point. We're doing it. No questions asked.
Okay. That's fine.
Right, Nate? Right, Nate? Right, Nate?
Hold on. I got my daughter's needing a ride here. I mean, my wife's getting her, but what'd you say?
We're going to do a top 25 remakes list at some point. We're doing it.
I don't want to do a show on it, but
no, we're doing a show on it. It's got to be said. Anyway, finish your thoughts, Sethi.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I liked it. I especially liked it for the changes. Even though I definitely prefer the original. This is a fun one. And
yes.
The end. Back to you.
I love this movie. It's one of my top 5 of the 90s. Period. I mean, there's Scream and Candyman.
If we're talking 90s, it's the top 10 of the 90s, I think.
Of all the 90s.
Yeah.
The 90s is such a weak decade for horror, though. I mean, we're still the early part of the 90s. We were still trying to recover from 1989. I wrote an article and a list of the films from 1989. I was like, God, there's nothing really that great that stood out from 1989.
Pet Sematary is like the only thing that comes to my mind.
Yeah. And I put Society in there too because that movie's fucked up. But yeah, like the 90s really kind of suffered early on, so there's really not much. And then you get to 96 with Scream, and Scream, I don't care what that V guy says, it's fantastic. But anyway, I got a list of my top. Dracula, Bram Stoker's Dracula is also on there. But
Candyman, Del Morte, Delamore.
I think that's my favorite. Yeah. In the Mouth of Madness.
From Dusk Till Dawn. What New Nightmare?
You guys like Event Horizon?
Yeah, I like that. That's a good one.
Yeah. That's probably his best movie.
Lords of Illusion. Did you guys ever see that one?
Which one?
Blair Witch, Audition.
See, Blair Witch and Audition are late 90s. They're almost 2000. So yeah, that's when the horror was really after Scream. I'm telling you, by the middle of the decade, the horror started coming back. We should just do a whole 90s retrospective.
Ravenous was one that doesn't get talked about. I've never seen
Ravenous.
Ravenous is good. Seems like we're forgetting about Dead Alive.
Yeah, that was a
Misery.
Misery is beautiful. Did we ever do that one?
Nope.
No, we haven't.
All right. So next
Frighteners.
week, what's Seth?
Frighteners.
Frighteners is great. I love that movie. Peter Jackson can almost do no wrong, in my opinion, except for the Hobbit movies.
The Hobbit movies.
Yeah.
I can't remember if I even finished those.
I did, man. I love Tolkien's movie or Tolkien's books, and we were really pumped about the Hobbit movies. And by the third one, I'm like, holy shit, these are cartoons. Anyway, next week we are back with a new episode in the same format. 2004, Zack Snyder and James Gunn together, which is weird to say now. Dawn of the Dead 2004 is our topic for next week.
I can already tell what my scene's going to be.
You already know?
It's kind of obvious with this one.
The beginning.
It's just one of the best in the beginnings of a movie.
It really
ever.
is. It's one, this is actually the movie that I was like, I want the beginning to grab me, because the beginning of Dawn of the Dead 2004 just grabbed me, sucked me right in, because I was fucking visibly nervous when going to watch this, because I love Dawn of the Dead, and this was coming on the heels of seeing Texas Chainsaw Massacre 03, and I hated it. And my wife, she wasn't my wife yet, we were just dating at the time, but she's holding my hand and she's like watching me. Are you okay? Are you okay? And then that opening scene, I'm like, oh my god, this is gonna be awesome. And it was. The whole movie was awesome.
If only they could get that guy to write DC movies.
Yeah. Fast forward almost 20 years. So I'm excited about this one. And then in 2 weeks, Nate will be out, and we're gonna do something that he doesn't want to talk about. Probably Lucio Fulci's Zombie. Since it's Zombie Month.
Yeah, I can miss that and be happy.
I know. You don't want to miss Train to Busan, which we'll do the following week, I guess. And then we'll get to, we're going to do one cut of The Dead. And did we decide a second one that we hadn't seen?
I don't remember.
Okay, we'll have to figure that out. And then going into March, we will finally get to Drag Me to Hell, which I'm really kind of looking forward to dig into, especially with our new format. Did you guys enjoy the new format?
Yes.
Sorry, something changed with Jared. He had to miss because he did say not tonight.
Yeah, we'll get him next time.
If something happened, I hope he's all right.
Yeah, he's okay. He texted me and was telling me he ended up having to bounce. So we'll get him next week. And again, subscribe to the Horror Syndicate on YouTube. We do shows 3 times a week generally. You can check out Rage of Razor, where we're doing action movie ratings right now. Beverly Hills Cop all day. I love those movies.
Aqua Foley. I love that fucking scene. Like that. Beverly Hills Cop 3 gets shit on, but that Surge scene is gold.
The reunion.
It goes on a little too long.
I don't know. I love it though.
But I love it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad it goes on. This looks like a keychain. I'm just gonna push this button. And then the brightest light it's ever seen is coming out. He's like,
There's some trivia for you. George Lucas is in that movie.
Oh yeah.
A rare acting role for George Lucas. I love those movies. I don't know what should we do next. What franchise should we do next for rating on the Rage of Razor? We've done Lethal Weapon. We've done Half a Die Hard.
John Wick. I don't know.
Oh, John Wick. That's good. Let's do that. There's 3 of those, right? So, well, yeah, and there are new ones coming out this year. So, yeah, check out Rage of Razor on Facebook if you are into action movies or comic book movies or listening to me and Seth blather on about Superman, because that's been happening. So, anyway, that's it for this show, Night of the Living Dead, 1990. Certified awesome, in my opinion. And we will catch you next week for Dawn of the Dead 2004. Love that movie. You guys have a great night. For Nate and Seth, fucking love you guys. Have a great night.
Good night.